What's happening, Pod Squad? Welcome into a solo episode of the show. I got a weird piece of feedback the other day from somebody. Actually, it was on a discovery call to potentially work with someone one on one, and he's like, "Dude, the solo episodes are way better than the interviews." And I'm like, "Man, good to know." They're not always the easiest to do. Recording a solo podcast episode, like I got to make sure I'm really like prepared. I got a plan, otherwise, I just turns into word salad. And I enjoy talking with other people. Love interviewing, people in the industry, people that can help your business, vendors, all that stuff. But today is a solo episode. And what it is, it's kind of actually a little bit cool. If you're just listening on the podcast today, you'll still appreciate this. But I would encourage you to go check out the YouTube version. And if you're there, you might as well like and subscribe and comment and tell Matt how awesome he is and all that stuff. And the reason why you should go to the YouTube version today is I'm going to be walking you through a presentation that I gave for the Blacktop Banner Success Group last February. So that was February 2024. Okay, so over a year ago. And I gave it to that group. It was a 1-hour call we did. And the reason this sparked in my brain today was, well, number one, I just saw Marvin Joel. He was in he was being interviewed basically on a networking group call last week. And number two, this is super important and it's a little bit boring. Like, I don't think contract law is that exciting. But if you've ever had a problem getting payment from a customer, or if you've ever had a situation with a general contractor or something very vague and murky and you're not really sure if you're legally entitled to charge money for something, maybe it's a change order, all of those types of things, I think this can really help you. So I walked through some contract law basics, and then at the end, I'll kind of talk about how that applies to you collecting money, basically. Because one of the worst things that could happen, as you could imagine, is, you working with a client or a general contractor on a sealing or striping or paving project, and you get either locked in to something that you shouldn't have agreed to, and now you're forced to do the job or the project, maybe at a lower cost than what you should have. Or maybe it's the other way. Maybe you are getting pressured, or you do work, and your client or the GC is like, actually, we don't owe you money for this. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in contract law. So this presentation, I took a 4-day contract law course about a month before I did this presentation for Blacktop Banner, and I thought it would be helpful. So hopefully you listening out there, especially a business owner, you will appreciate this. And I would recommend that you look in your local area, look in your state or your province or your region, your county, whatever that looks like for you. Try and find a course like that. Often they're not that expensive, probably around $500, maybe $700, $800, but you could probably even do them like virtually, in like a group classroom type setting, or maybe even like a pre-recorded training. I'm not sure, but understanding contract law, very helpful. So I'm going to walk you through this presentation. All right. So fair warning, if you're watching on YouTube, which you should be, this is the first time I ever did a slide deck presentation using ChatGPT images only. So you're going to see things in here a little bit goofy. So my suave looking guy here, unfortunately, that's not me. That's ChatGPT. And as you can see, he's eagerly, just looking right into this contract to see what's going on. So what is a contract? You might think that's an outrageous question, but it's actually a really important thing to understand. 3 key points here, okay? So number one, it's an agreement between 2 or more parties. Number 2, this can be written or it could be oral. Verbal contracts are very much a thing. It was very eye-opening for me, even in the group classroom setting that I was in when I took this course. Dude, there's a lot of companies out there, in trucking companies and stuff, that are operating their businesses on verbal contracts, which is quite a way to live, I'm not going to lie, but it can be done and very enforceable even if it's verbal. Okay, so it's agreement between 2 or more parties, oral or written. And number 3, the terms in it may be expressed or they can be implied. Okay, fancy word for saying be very specific, or it could be broadly written. The point is, the more clear your terms are in a contract, and the more obviously written down it is as opposed to verbal, the better off you'll be. This is why construction companies, when they send you drawings to seal and stripe stuff, give you very detailed architectural, civil, landscape drawings. They're very, very detailed because they want the terms, they want the specifications of what products you're going to use and how much paint you're going to use and what type of equipment you need to use it. That's all express terms, okay? So that's general contractors and engineering firms covering their butts, basically. So this slide, though, in addition to having a just absolutely amusing ChatGPT image that it made, is probably the most important slide. Okay. So the contract law course that I took focused on these 6 attributes of a contract. So in order to have a legally binding contract, right, you need these 6 things. And I'm going to walk you through one by one what they are and what they mean. So you need intention is number 1. Number 2, offer. Number 3, acceptance. Number 4, consideration. Number 5 is capacity. And number 6 is legality. Now, if you were to Google the 6 attributes of a contract, you might see some of the words slightly different, but they're all in the same vein here, okay? It's all talking about the same thing. You need intention, offer, acceptance, consideration, capacity, and legality. So what the heck does that mean? I'm going to go through these one by one. And because I love the people and I love people who support the show, if you want a copy of this slide deck, maybe you're listening in the car today, dude, send me a DM or send me an email, cam@stripedpodcast.com. Just let me know, like, hey, I listen to the contract law, would love that slide deck. I want to see those cool ChatGPT images you're talking about. I'll hook you up, okay? So let's go through these one by one. Let's start with intention. Intention, what it means is that all parties, so everyone in this contract, must have a clear intention to create a legally binding agreement. That means no gotchas. Like, there has to clearly be an intent to make a contract. So when you get sent construction drawings and an offer and a subcontract, that's pretty clear intention, okay? It's pretty clear that there's trying to be a legally binding agreement there. So intention, very important, pretty self-explanatory as well. Number 2 is offer. What does it mean? It means that one party has to make a definite offer to the other party. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Check out this awesome image that ChatGPT made, man. This is off the chain. It's just straight gibberish. I love it. So pretty self-explanatory. Contract means that something has to be offered or exchanged, right? So typically for you and I, we're exchanging our services and our professional experience of striping, seal coating, asphalt paving, patching, whatever else crap you sell, in exchange for money. Number 3, also super important, acceptance. The offer must be accepted without any modifications. Now, the reason why this is really interesting is, like, you might think, well, of course, if I sign something, I accept it. Well, yes, that's true. But remember, contracts can be verbal too. So if you ever reference on a phone call, a contract or a subcontract, and you tell somebody, I accept the terms of the contract, you could be held to the terms of that contract even if you didn't sign it. Now, maybe the contract itself has a statement in there that says this will only be accepted upon signing, something like that. But the point is, like, you can accept things in very bizarre ways. So you ever heard the story of, like, signing a deal on a napkin, right? That's legit. Like, if you accept the terms of a verbal contract and you guys sign it on a napkin at a restaurant, it sounds like it's straight out of a Godfather movie, but it would be considered a contract. In fact, there is a company in my market, not a competitor, they kind of do different work than us. Some of the services overlap, I guess, a little bit. They have a major contract with a massive property here in town that they've had for many, many years, like literally over 10, 15 years. That was originally signed on a napkin that the contract business owner has framed and put inside of his house. Like, not gonna lie, that's a pretty awesome move. So, back in the day, they came to an agreement to do these services for this property. The owner of the property and the contractor, they signed this napkin. Now the contractor has it in his house. That's pretty cool. So, intention, offer, and acceptance. Those are three of the things you need. You also need number 4, which is consideration. What that means is something of value has to be exchanged between the parties involved. So that could be anything: goods, services, money, or a pledge to perform or not perform an action. So, typically in our line of work, we're always going to be getting something in exchange for something, but not always. Like sometimes we might agree to do a donation, right? Or we'll donate our work and something like that. So maybe things aren't being exchanged in terms of money, but maybe it is that pledge to perform something or not perform something. So we're going to look at an example a little bit later of how consideration might be a thing. Number 5, you need capacity. This is also a really important one, okay? So legal capacity basically means 2 things. Number 1, both of the people signing have to be of sound mind, not under duress, and obviously the age of majority in whatever part of the world that is for you. So they have to be sound of mind, not under duress, in the age of majority. But number 2 is they also must have the legal capacity to enter into the agreement, which means if somebody was drunk out of their mind and they signed a contract, they arguably, when you're standing before the judge in court, one could easily make the argument that this person did not have capacity to sign an agreement. Or here's another example. Maybe someone at a company, like a general contracting company or somewhere like that, gives you a contract that they're not actually allowed to issue. Let's say you have I don't even know what a crazy example would be. Maybe you've got an IT person at a construction company. Their job is to fix the computers. But this guy decides to go rogue, and he's going to issue a service contract to his cousin Vinny's seal coating company. It could definitely be made of the argument that, he might not have the legal capacity to issue that contract. Now, that's probably I'm not a lawyer, so that's probably a gray area because, he's probably going to use a service contract template that the company already uses. The point is, though, you have to have legal capacity to do it. You can't be stoned. You can't be drunk. You can't, anything that's going to prevent you from understanding the terms of the contract or influence you to make a terrible decision. So I've actually seen this on TV shows. Maybe you have too. If somebody is not in a mental capacity to sign something, the thing could be invalidated. Number 6. Last one, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's got to be legal, right? So you can't write an agreement that says, I agree to murder someone for $10,000. Yeah, good luck. That's not going to be enforceable because it's against legal and public policy. Don't be killing people. So those are the 6 things that you need. Have to have them. And, this is why I would encourage you to take a contract law course, is because it really impressed on me as a business owner and having some struggles with general contractors in particular, and understanding being held to terms of a contract or not being held to terms, or what is a contract. There's been times where it has come in so handy, most notably when it comes to collections, which I'll get to in a second. So what would be examples of invalid or a contract that you have with your customers that's not enforceable? Here's a little flywheel with 5 things. So if anything is fraudulent or misrepresented, that would be invalid. Any sort of financial release, it's a little bit complicated. Force majeure is mentioned here, but that would be one as well. Duress or lack of capacity. Definitely. If you're under duress, you might not have a valid contract. So hopefully you're not signing contracts when you're under duress. Number 4, unconscionable or unjust action. And number 5, mistake absolving reasonable contract or defense. That's a pretty interesting one, and not a discussion for this podcast. Once again, not a lawyer, but let's get into the good stuff now. I got some examples that whether you're listening or watching, I think you'll really appreciate. So as we go through them, I'll actually pull up on the slide those 6 elements of a contract, and then you can decide if it's, in your opinion, these hypothetical examples would meet the terms of a legal contract, right? So on the left-hand side, here's the situation, all right? A contractor hired a striping crew from Mexico. I don't know if you guys actually say that. Mexico, to do the line striping at a new box store. The crew was legally allowed to work in the United States of America. The contract was in English. However, it was clear that the crew were functionally illiterate, aka they didn't understand English. The contract called for the crew to stripe the box door in 5 phases. The crew showed up only to see phase 1 ready, so they walked away as they didn't include other mobilizations in their pricing. The contractor sues the Mexican line striping company for his losses. Here's the question. Would he succeed in court? Why or why not? So if you look at the 6 elements of a contract: intention, offer, acceptance, consideration, capacity, and legality. One of the questions that are probably going to come up as to whether this is like an actual enforceable contract is capacity, right? Did this Mexican line striping crew have the capacity to sign a contract in English? Now, again, not a lawyer. Should probably just say that every 2 minutes just so I don't get sued. I'm not a lawyer, but reasonably, I think you could argue that someone who signed an agreement, maybe they're pressured to sign it in a language that they don't understand, probably didn't have capacity to understand 5 phases, not 1 phase. So that's a pretty, is it not an extreme example, but I'm sure this happens at some point. Like, there's a lot of contracting companies, especially in different parts of North America, that English is not their first language. So something like this has probably happened and probably happens regularly. Understanding the 6 elements of a contract, very, very critical for understanding would this be enforceable or not? Would the contractor be able to sue for his losses in court? As I look at the 6 elements of a contract, I could reasonably and pretty confidently say, no, you can't sue somebody because they signed a contract in a language they didn't understand. Now, that begs another question. Why are you signing contracts in a language you don't understand? But that's not the subject of this podcast. Got another example for you. This one is a lot more relevant and could be something that you've faced in your business. Hopefully not, but it happens. Have you ever bid something and then gone, oh no, I missed something? Ooh, that's not good, especially if the something is significant. So here's the example. A general contractor is looking for a crack sealing and a seal coating subcontractor for a parking lot. Chose a company called Seal Coat Plus for their low bid, which their low bid was 50% less than the others. Ooh, cheap, 50%. All right, 1 week before starting, Seal Coat Plus found out that 2 coats of sealer were required, and they only calculated for 1. They asked the general contractor to adjust their price, pretty reasonable, but the GC demanded adherence to the original bid, forcing Seal Coat Plus to withdraw their bid. Facing project delays, obviously, and higher costs, obviously, the GC sues Seal Coat Plus for their price difference with the next lowest bid, which we already established was quite a bit more. Will they succeed in court? So I've definitely been in a situation kind of like this, certainly not to the point of being sued, but there's a project I once quoted for line striping off of construction drawings, and I just totally messed it up. It's that simple. It was these really strange 24-inch wide, so a crosswalk with yellow stripe, these hash lines basically that went around a utility building. And for some reason, I can't remember exactly how I messed it up, but I thought this was going to be kind of 10 gallons of paint sort of thing to do all these lines, maybe 15. It ended up being significantly more, and I'm talking a lot more. So much so we drove the 4 hours, didn't have enough product, had to come back another time, which was a massive money loss. Between the extra material and the mobilization, just it's pretty rare to lose money on a striping job. That's what I say all the time. Definitely lost money on that striping job. Not even a question. So, in that situation, I could have gone to the general contractor who was running that project and said, hey, I messed up. I need more money. Now, this is why I'm talking about it on the podcast today. Understanding what is a legally binding contract is so critical so that you don't get caught in these murky situations and trying to understand, well, can I charge more? What do I do? Let's go back to this example. Seal Coat Plus was given an offer to do a parking lot project. They submitted a quote. So let's assume that the general contractor gave Seal Coat Plus all of the drawings or the specifications or what they needed. And let's say it clearly said, hey, apply 2 coats of sealer to the parking lot. But for some reason, the estimator at Seal Coat Plus just missed it, made a mistake, assumed it was 1. Maybe they were in a rush. Who knows? By the time that a contract is signed for 1 coat, look at the 6 elements of a contract here. Did we have intention, an offer, acceptance, consideration, capacity, and is it not legally wrong to do it? I would argue that, yeah, you've got a pretty bulletproof, legally binding contract. So by the time the subcontractor, Seal Coat Plus, so those are people like you and I, we're the seal coat and striping people, by the time they decide to withdraw, and now the GC is like a week before, they've got this project. Now they have to scramble to find someone on a week's notice and pay more money. That really isn't the fault of the general contractor. It was, unfortunately, just a mistake by Seal Coat Plus, right? So, in my opinion, when you look at this, I see all 6 elements of a contract there, which means, unfortunately for Seal Coat Plus, you're probably going to be held to do the project, or in this case, maybe the GC had to go get another company. You're probably going to be sued for the difference due to the losses and the project delays and the higher costs, right? So in the real world, though, generally speaking, your clients, your customers, your subcontractors, general contractors you're working for generally don't want to sue you. Yes, there's a few bad apples. I've definitely had some in my 7 years of business where I've had people say, I'll see you in court for just piddly stupid stuff. And definitely there's going to be people who will just use that as a bargaining chip. That's pretty, not as common in Canada, a little bit more common in the United States. You guys have to deal with that a lot more than we do. But for the most part, in the real world, your GC wants you to succeed if you are the striping or seal coating company. And you want to succeed too. So maybe there's a provision in a situation like this where you can go to the GC and say, look, we messed up. We have to charge more money. That's why it was 50% less. Can we go to your customer? Can we go to the owner of this parking lot, explain the situation, and see if we can get, at the very least, a small increase in the price to at least cover the costs, right? To at least bring it closer to the next lowest bidder. And like a general contractor is probably willing to do that. So, maybe it's going to cost the customer like another $10,000 or something like that. Maybe the general contractor will advocate on your behalf and say, hey, these guys messed up. They're going to need some more money. The value for the contractor might be like, 12 or 15,000, but they might go to bat for you, right? The point of this episode is make sure that you understand if you have a legally binding contract. Pulling out of a job a week before. So if you go back to my example, once we were on that job in striping and I realized, because I was on the job, once I realized I grossly underbid this, we don't even have enough product. I could have just walked away and sent them a change order for more money. But I don't know. I'm pretty sure I had a legally binding contract, man, an agreement and a price to do that work. I would say this though, and I don't want to keep forever on this. The onus really should be on the general contractor to let the subcontractor know you were the low bid, we're going to give you the work, but just so you know, you were 50% less than the others. And that could save a whole lot of grief before any contract even gets signed. Could be a massive, massive time saver. So good practice when you're submitting RFQ type stuff. Maybe you're bidding bid work on Construct Connect, or you're bidding for your local municipality or stuff. After a bid closes, definitely find out what the bid results were. You don't torture yourself and beat yourself up if you're like, oh, we could have charged more money because the next guy was like $10,000 more. That's not the point. The point is you're trying to make sure that have you counted everything correctly? Are your costs covered? So you're not stuck in a situation like Seal Coat Plus here. Poor guys. One more quick one. Okay. Yeah, this is a longer episode. Bill is the project manager. I love this example. Bill's a project manager for XYZ Construction. Okay. He's in charge of a construction project. XYZ awards the electrical portion of the contract to Sparky Electrical. Because why wouldn't it be called Sparky Electrical? Anyways, So Bill's the project manager. He's like, Sparky, you're up. You're doing all the wiring. Post-award, the owner of Sparky Electric phones Bill and offers to provide temporary power on site to Bill and all the subcontractors on site at no cost. For free. Bill thanks Sparky for his generous offer on the phone. Obviously accepted it. But Sparky didn't follow through with his promise, and he underestimated what would be involved in providing temporary power. Whoa, you went from being like a hero to a villain real quick. Question, is there any enforceable contract for temporary power? Why or why not? So this is obviously electrical, has nothing to do with what we do, but same thing. Maybe you could find yourself in a situation like this where an offer is made to do something like this, make a generous offer, and then somebody changes their mind once they realize, oh, maybe that was too generous. So I'm not even going to get into my opinion of it. I'm just going to let you guys think about it. Do you have all 6 elements of a legally binding contract there? Intention, offer, acceptance, consideration, capacity, and legality. I think it's a pretty interesting one, and we went through quite a number of hypothetical examples in our construction law course. This one tripped up a lot of people, I will say that, and these are smart people. Most of the people in that course were project managers, estimators, people on large bidding stuff like that. A few of us business owners were in there too. So I'll leave that one for you. Go ask ChatGPT what it thinks. And by the way, don't ever get full legal advice from ChatGPT. It goes without saying. So, how this relates to payment collections. So, super quick story. Okay. The reason why I took construction law at the end of 2023 is I got tired of people not paying me. Like, I was sick of it. And I know for you guys listening out there, this is a common problem for you too. And depending on, where you are, what state you are, province, Canada, country, whatever, there might be some very unfavorable laws for you. In construction in particular, we do see a lot of construction companies in our line of work that will pay their subs on like net 60, net 90, which is just a crazy amount of time. But even worse, one thing that I found is like I was trying to get ahead of some of these GCs. So, we would work with a big builder here in my market in Prince George. They would build a new building. And because I made the whole process of painting their parking lot years ago so frictionless, like I just made it easy, right? I communicated proactively, showed up when I said I was going to show up. I had no problems, right? I made no problems for my GCs. And so they got very comfortable with me to the point where a lot of the times they'd just be like, yeah, man, just like email me the price and let me know when you can go sort of thing. Or email me the price and we'll be paving in like September or something. And I realized that like, that's a little bit casual and it's kind of funny that the subcontractor initiates a contract, but I started doing that, right? So I went to I had a lawyer review like a service agreement that essentially we still use today. It looks a little bit different. And I said, hey, I'm just trying to make sure that I don't have any problems. I'm tired of showing up to a job site and on a construction site and having crap in the way, right? And having to remobilize. And I don't have an agreement that says, dude, if I show up to your parking lot to stripe or seal it, and there's like building materials in the parking lot and trusses on the ground, like I'm going to have to charge you more money, right, to remobilize. I can do some of the work, but not all of it. So stuff like that. So we built this service agreement, and one of the key parts in this service agreement was you got to pay us within 30 days, right? Pretty standard. Some customers, we were charging like 15 days. And what was happening in 2022 and 2023 when we started using the service contract is people just still wouldn't pay within 30 days, especially general contractors, which was really annoying. And so even though they were signing our contract, like they wouldn't issue us a contract, they were signing ours. They had no idea what they were signing. They didn't read the stinking thing, and they wouldn't honor any of the terms. And I got sick of it. The straw that broke the camel's back was a bridge project here locally. That's as specific as I'll get into. We were asked to do some like basically emergency painting very close to the end of the year. Like winter was coming. The contractor that was supposed to come was just like a provincial contractor, like a state contractor basically. They're like, dude, we ain't driving all the way up there in October, November to paint one little bridge. Like, you're on your own. The government said, well, that's a problem because we're not going to have a bridge open with no pavement markings. So we got to do something. Laser pavement was the something. So we end up, sending an agreement to the bridge builder and basically saying like, yeah, we'll do this like last minute. It's going to be expensive, but here's our service agreement. Like sign it today and we can get it on the schedule in 2 days and we'll get it done. Right. We're very quick like that in my company. We like to get things done quickly. So we do the job. Everything goes well. And we don't get paid. That's, starts with 2 weeks and then it's 4 weeks and then it goes to 6 weeks, then 8 weeks. And like, the longer and longer it goes, the more I'm like grinding my teeth. It's now getting into December. We did this project in October and I'm like, this is insane. Like, had we not agreed to go and that bridge builder couldn't find a striping company to go do it, man, I don't actually know what the actual implication would be, like probably financial loss, but like there's no way the government would have been at all psyched to know that there's a public bridge, brand new, worth billions of dollars that didn't have pavement markings. Like even in wintertime in Canada, dude, that's a huge safety risk. They would have had to have come up with something. They would have like had to install delineators or something. Who knows, right? Just to keep the bridge safe. So we go out of our way, we solve these guys' problems, and then they don't pay us. And it was infuriating. And that was the thing for me that it was like, dude, I have an agreement, a contract that was reviewed by a lawyer. And I feel like it doesn't matter what happens. Like these contractors sign it and I still don't get paid. And I was so annoyed and so frustrated that I was like, I need to educate myself better on what I'm doing wrong. So enter contract law. I sign up for a course like literally 3-4 weeks later, take the course. And it was so helpful. So if you're listening to this in the busy season, maybe not the greatest time to go take a course. Maybe you can. If it's a work at your own pace thing, maybe it's an option for you. I would recommend you do it because the way that the effects of a legal contract directly affect you getting paid. And it breaks my heart because even some of the companies that I work with one-on-one, man, they're doing the right things. They have agreements. They have terms and conditions in Jobber, in One Crew, in whatever. They're sending it out. Customers are signing it and then they don't honor it. And if you look at the 6 elements of a contract and what makes a legally binding contract, you should be getting paid in the terms at which your customer signed, assuming you have all 6 of those things. So we put out content recently about successful payment collection, so I'm not going to worry about this slide too much. Excuse me. But, well, there you go. There's 33 minutes of contract law, basically. So I would be very curious, people's opinion on this. None of us start business to write contracts. It's just not that exciting. It's not why we do what we do. We'd rather just do the work. But the reality is, in order to protect yourself, your business, and therefore your family, your personal assets, everything, contracts are a critical part of your business. So whether you're estimating or you're the business owner, you're trying to collect money, understanding it will be very helpful for your business. I hope you enjoyed this ChatGPT inspired. Literally everything in there was from ChatGPT. Now, if you want a copy of it so that you can kind of look at those examples on your own, or even just kind of, have it visually, get in touch with me. Happy to send it to you. And I'm rooting for you, man. Get contracts. And get them written too. Don't do verbal contracts. That's crazy to me. I don't know how you enforce verbal contracts. It seems very difficult. So, hope you enjoyed it. Keep your stripes hot. And as always, we will talk to you next week. Your spreadsheets and your systems for your business suck, and you might be losing a ton of money in your paving or your pavement maintenance business. Look, our company recently switched to One Crew, and it is the only industry-specific, all-in-one platform for paving companies, for pavement maintenance companies, striping companies. It doesn't matter if it's like the sales cycle or if you're estimating or even if you're trying to manage your crew, One Crew has features for all of that. It is unbelievably effective. So if right now you're doing a lot of your estimating on spreadsheets and at the end of the day or the end of the year, you don't even know if you're making a lot of money, I guarantee you One Crew will help you. It is so easy to make more money with this software. You'll love it. Here's the best part. Listeners of this show get $500 off of the setup fee if you go to getonecrew.com/stripeit. $500 off of your setup fee. Take a free demo and have a look for yourself, man. getonecrew.com/stripeit.